As I go into this next part, I want you to keep an open mind with what you're about to see and hear. Every symbol and hand gesture that you're going to see is going to be correlated with Satan in some way, with undeniable evidence. Like stated in Part 4b, we can't be oblivious to what we see or hear because of our admiration for a person or thing. We know that Satan wants to humiliate and destroy man and wants to be seen doing it openly. The book of 1 Peter gives us warning in chapter 5, verse 8. Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary the devil prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Satan wants as many souls as he can get, and like stated in part 3, it doesn't matter if you know it or not. In part 4b, you may have noticed that I mentioned two early hip-hoppers who were seen flaunting the number 666. Most people have heard of this number correlation as being associated with the mark of the beast, and that's exactly where it came from. It is described as the number of the Antichrist in the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 18. Whenever we see artists or anyone using these sets of numbers, we can only assume that it is putting out a message as support for the Antichrist. Most artists nowadays have gotten comfortable with flaunting the number as well as the hand gestures. As you take a look at these hand gestures, you will notice that most of the people seen are some of the most influential artists in the industry right now. Some of these artists have no direct ties to each other, but can be seen holding up the same hand gestures. We have to understand that this number correlation is strictly a Bible reference, no matter what excuse these artists may have. This next gesture you may see regularly. This hand gesture is a sign used to perpetrate the devil's horns. If you've ever watched rock band videos or have seen their album covers, most likely you've seen them holding up this hand gesture. Most people nowadays associate the gesture with it just showing as being part of the rock culture, but I can assure you that it's more than that. There is evidence that this hand gesture is as old as dating back to the late 14th century AD. This started to become popular back in 1968 with a Chicago-based psychedelic occult rock band named Coven, led by singer Jinx Dawson. They would always give the sign at the beginning and the end of their concerts. In 1969, they openly flaunted the sign on the back of their album cover and poster, Witchcraft Destroys Minds and Reaps Souls, where it shows the members of the band performing a satanic ritual while holding up the gesture. The album proves its intended message of satanic worship. For instance, titles like Black Sabbath, White Witch of Rose Hall, Pact with Lucifer, Dignitaries of Hell, and Satanic Mass are all titles on this album. One of the songwriters, James Vincent, who used the name John Dollinger, was not a member of the band, but was asked by Bill Trout, Coven's producer and founder of Dunwich Records, to write, arrange, and co-produce the album together with Trout. Vincent describes the event as a bizarre album project. He starts by saying, quote, Bill brought me a large box full of books about witchcraft and related subjects. He told me to read them and start writing some songs. Sometime before the sun came up, I had completely written all the material requested for me for the entire album, end quote. This group is said to have set groundbreaking trends for later rock bands such as the signs of the devil horns, inverted crosses, and the phrase Hail Satan. Most heavy metal bands from that time until now have been heavily influenced by this rock band group. Groups like the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, and AC/DC are just a few. These are groups that some hip-hoppers have been influenced by musically, and you may hear the samples in some of their songs. For instance, there is an album by Jay-Z called The Great Album, produced by Danger Mouse, which is an album that combines the Beatles' The White Album and Jay-Z's The Black Album, which are remixes and mashups of both albums. This is the album that contains the Lucifer 9 track that, when played backwards, it has the subliminal messages and chants that include Murder, Murder, Jesus, 666, and I Can Introduce You to Evil. I've provided a link in the description for the track to take a listen for yourselves. I'm also going to provide a link to a video series called The Jay-Z Deception by the Forerunner 777, which will go into more depth of Jay-Z and the Beatles. The devil horn's hand gesture is currently a sign used by the Church of Satan, started by known Satanist Anton LaVey on April 30th, 1966. The point is, as seeing this in the hip-hop industry rules out any doubt that these hand gestures are a sign of satanic worship. The pentagram originated from the shape of a five-pointed star drawn with 5 straight strokes. It comes from the Greek word pentagrammen, with pente meaning 5 and gramme meaning line. In Western civilization, the pentagram was said to be used in ancient times as a Christian symbol for the 5 senses, or of the 5 wounds of Christ, as described in the 14th century English poem Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, in which the symbol decorates the shield of the hero Gawain. But as believers, we know that isn't true because there is no reference of this symbol in the Bible. Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa was a 16th century German magician, occult writer, theologian, astrologer, and alchemist, perpetrated the popularity of the pentagram as a magic symbol. He attributed the 5 Neoplatonic elements to the 5 points in a typical Renaissance fashion. By the mid-19th century, different versions had developed amongst occultists regarding the pentagram's orientation. A single point upwards depicted it as a spirit presiding over the 4 elements of matter and was essentially good. However, a writer named Eliphas Levi, a 19th century French occult author and ceremonial magician, called it evil whenever the symbol appeared the other way up. Here are some of Levi's quotes regarding the inverted pentagram. A reverse pentagram with 2 points projected upwards is a symbol of evil and attracts sinister forces because it overturns the proper order of things and demonstrates the triumph of matter over spirit. It is the goat of lust attacking the heavens with its horns, a sign execrated by initiates. The flaming star, which, when turned upside down, is the hieroglyphic sign of the goat of black magic, whose head may be drawn in the star with the 2 horns at the top, the ears to the right and left, the beard at the bottom. It is the sign of antagonism and fatality. It is the goat of lust attacking the heavens with his horns. Let us keep the figure of the 5-pointed star always upright, with the topmost triangle pointing to heaven, for it is the seat of wisdom, and if the figure is reversed, perversion and evil will be the result. The goat of lust that Levi is referring to is Baphomet. The term Baphomet first appeared as a pagan idol in transcripts of the Inquisition of the Knights Templar in the early 14th century. It became popular in the English usage in the 19th century, with debate and speculation on the reasons for the suppression of the Templars. In 1856, Baphomet has since been associated with a sabbatic goat image drawn up by Levi, which contains binary elements representing the balance or the sum total of the universe, i.e. male and female, good and evil, etc. Nowadays, Baphomet has been connected with Satanism primarily due to the adoption of it as a symbol by the Church of Satan. The image of Baphomet is widely being used in the hip-hop industry by some of the most well-known artists. For instance, Kanye West has been seen wearing clothing with the symbols appearing on it as seen here. We can see an inverted pentagram as mentioned earlier by Levi and the head of a goat. In this next image, we can see the wife of rapper Jay-Z, Beyonce, openly wearing a Baphomet ring during a concert. It can't be a coincidence that these 3 are oblivious to blatantly putting out occultic and satanic symbols. All 3 are closely affiliated, and you know what they say about birds of a feather. Another prominent figure in the hip-hop industry is a rapper named Wiz Khalifa. In this video, named Black and Yellow, We can see that there is a person in the background wearing a Baphomet shirt, while there is a preteen next to him holding up the devil horns hand gesture. This picture shows a rapper by the name of A$AP Rocky in the middle of a pentagram made of cocaine performing a satanic banishing ritual.